and welcome back to the What the Falk Sunderland preview show as we look forward to an Easter weekend doubleheader starting off with playoff contenders Bristol City away on Friday. It's been a little while since we've had them on, since we've been playing Bristol City on random Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but to help me preview a game on a random Friday, or a Good Friday, is David from Forever at Bristol City. Dave, how are you doing? You alright?
Yeah, not so bad, Graham. And yourself?
Getting by, mate. Yeah, not being too bad. I was going to say, it feels like it's been quite a while.
Yeah, it's not bad. I look back. I mean, we played you last time you guys came to Ashton Gate was just before Christmas 2023. So that is about 16 months ago, and we beat you 1-0 with a penalty. But I just love you saying right at the beginning there, Bristol City playoff contenders. I mean, who'd have thought it?
I know, who'd have thought, indeed. I mean, look, I want to get into that, but as we always do, we start with the first game. QPR last week, 1-1.
Yeah.
It's not a great result, but it's not a bad result. Keeps the run going. How was the performance?
I'll be honest, it was an okay result. With 20 games to go, I was forecasting what we needed to do, and it roughly went each batch of 4 games, 2 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat. Now, after the international break, we lost to Burnley, but then we got those 6 points against Watford and West Brom at home. So QPR was the draw. Obviously, we got another 4 games coming up now to wrap the season up. But against QPR, we looked very leggy. I mean, they had nothing to play for, and they dominated us for 25 minutes, 1 goal advantage, could have been 2. Yeah, and then we produced our only really clinical move of the game. We got the draw, and yeah, it was a fair result. It was one that I was not disappointed with, particularly because we'd won the preceding 2.
You know, while it wasn't a win, as I said before, it does keep that sort of unbeaten run going. You've got a decent record recently. I think you're one of the informed sides in the league. I think technically the 6th most informed side in the league. You've won 3, drew 2, lost just the 1. Why has the form been so good in recent weeks? Because it's like, I be honest with you, you came in the playoffs now, and where have them come from? And it felt like that Little Britain sketch, you know, when you go, how did you get there? I fell. And I don't actually know how you got there, so explain that to me. How did that happen?
I mean, we don't know how we got there to some extent. I was saying on another broadcast thing today, it doesn't feel like a promotion season. I mean, this is our 10th successive season at this level. We haven't really threatened since 2017-18 and 2018-19. And both of those seasons, we started really well, and it really petered out towards the end. Yeah. Now, when you talk about form, we're only where we are because of our home form. Of the last 11 home games, we've won 9, drawn 1, and lost 1. Away from home, I think we've only lost 3 now out of 20 matches since Christmas. Away form hasn't been great. I think we've probably only won 2 away games in the last 6 months. So we are where we are because of home form. And as somebody said to me the other day, we're only 2 points better off than the same stage last season. Because that top 3 have broken away so much, you know, 60, what are we on? We're on 67 points, I think it is, with, no, not 67, 64 points with 4 games to go. You know, that's usually 8th or 9th in the league, certainly not 5th. It's a bit of a skewed division, and there's 4 clubs going for 2 places. Simple as that, I think. Maybe even 5, depends on how the results go on Good Friday.
It's quite a tight league. It's weird. You've got the top 3 going away at the top. You've got us just consistently in 4th. We're not going to move from 4th. We're not going to go up or down.
You're there. I mean, you're there, and you know, I would say, you know, you're never going to ease off. But if you wanted to do a bit of rotation or something before the playoffs, getting back to what you said as well, how we got where we got. I mean, we didn't do any transfer activity in the January window at all. We got people off the wage bill. We've had some key injuries. But somebody asked me today, why are we up there? And I think we've got a manager that has believed in his core principles and stuck with them, allowing players to express themselves a little more than maybe he did. And he's learning on the job. Let's be fair, he's never been in this position before. But I think the players as a group are together. There's no one superstar. I mean, our lead striker is Naki Wells, and he's 35 in June. And we went out and bought 2 players who've, one's gone out on loan, Mayulu, and Sinclair Armstrong from QPR. I mean, their goal contribution, square root of whatever, yeah. Naki's up there with, I think he's into double figures now. And our other goal scorer, Anis Mehmeti, he can't even get in the team at the moment with 12. So it's a collective group we're down to the bare bones, but we've come up on the rails, and you could argue that we're the form team coming into the playoffs. If we get 2 wins for us, will do it. 1 win, 2 draws and a defeat might do it in the final 4 games. But that's still we'd have to fall off in form to lose it now. It's in our hands.
When I looked at the summer transfers and stuff like that, one that stuck out, obviously because of where I live, being in Scotland, Tommy Conway going to Borough. And part of me, and it's weird, if you listen back to a podcast 2 summers ago, I tipped Bristol City as a random playoff team. I chucked them and I thought, why not? And some of it was, I thought, well, Conway's quite good. They've got some good young players and X, Y, and Z. And you never did it. So when Conway went in the summer, I thought, oh, well, maybe Bristol City will be one that could be in a bit of bother, or they'll just end up lower mid-table. Mm. At what point did the season go from, because obviously you've never been in relegation trouble, but no. you never started. I never looked and gone, oh, Bristol City are there, and now you are. At what point, from a fan base perspective, did you start believing that this could be not just your season, but like you could make a push towards the playoffs? What was the turning point?
I think fans only started believing it. Definitely after the West Brom game. And the Watford game, because we were winning some matches and not playing well. We had numerous occasions, probably from November, to get into the playoffs. But to give you a classic example, it's a few months ago now, but Sheffield United at home, we're winning 1-0 with 5 minutes to go, and they end up beating us 2-1. So there's this, typical Bristol City, raise your expectations, dash them, and they fail. As I say, that's what happened in 2018-19 was better, but 2017-18 season, we had 48 points by Christmas, and we lost to Wolves. And a lot of people say that was a little bit of a watershed moment because the final 20 games only produced 20 points. Bristol City fans, we haven't been this close since 2008. That's 17 years ago. And even in that season, when we lost to Hull in the playoff final, even that season, we were there or thereabouts throughout it. This season's different because we started, expectations have been managed down over a number of years now, and they started, and as I say, it started with the home wins just after we lost to West Brom 4 days before Christmas, started with unspectacular home wins against Luton and one other team. And then we picked up results and we've not been losing. You look at us, I think it's us and West Brom have drawn more games than any other team. If you look at the tail end of last season, you could say it was building then, because if you look at, 42 games played now, the last 50 games, that's the 8 games of last season, we've only lost, 11 games. We've drawn quite a few. You can't add 2 seasons' results together, but, Liam Manning has fashioned a side in a manner that he wants to play. And, it is what it is. We are where we are.
Well, you're looking at Liam Manning. I think he fits into that Russell Martin modern day manager type fit. And I remember we spoke when he just came and you went, I don't really know. I'm not too sure at the moment, because I think Nigel Pearson at the time had done a relatively recent job. It seemed like from the outside looking in, people quite liked him. I think people understood the things that he had that were going up against him. But look, he had a topsy-turvy time at MK Dons. He started well and then he completely failed. And basically, they got relegated to an extent. But as you said, young manager learning on the job. He goes to Oxford, had a good little stint, and then gets kind of a really quick jump up the leagues.
Yeah.
He's obviously had an immense personal tragedy this year, which I think people may be aware of.
Yes.
But he's taken on a fantastic journey, regardless of, the expectations at the start, things that have happened throughout the season. Why has the marriage of Liam Manning and Bristol City at the moment been quite a happy one?
I think when he came, Nigel Pearson had a lot of support amongst the fan base. Nigel Pearson didn't. The main thing that Nigel Pearson did, he allowed Bristol City to have a financial reset without getting relegated, which has happened many times over the past. So we preserved our status. He had Alex Scott sold underneath him, who went to Bournemouth. Who'd have thought Bristol would have been a feeder club for blinking Bournemouth? 6 months prior to Alex Scott going, Semenyo went. So He didn't endear himself to the board because we all know what Nigel Pearson's like, his upward communication. And he went, and the fans wanted a stick to beat the board with, and it was Liam Manning. So he had a lot to prove, and he started okay, but then that was, what was it, November 23. He started okay when we beat you just before Christmas, 1-0. And then we had that cup run when we beat West Ham and lost to Forest on penalties. But the football was a little bit turgid. And yeah, I mean, you described him as a Russell Martin. I don't think he's as fancy as Russell Martin. It's possession-based football. Somebody described it the other day as horseshoe football. And when we played West Brom on the recent fixture on the night, West Brom down to 10 men with 5 minutes remaining, we're tippy-tapping the ball on the edge of the box, and everybody's saying, well it in. But it's patience and what have you. And I think whatever happens, Liam Manning is going to be on the radar of clubs bigger than Bristol City next season because he's proven himself and he's ambitious. And he's not really you don't see a mentor behind him because Chris Hogg, who's his number 2, he had a fairly indifferent playing career to Liam Manning, didn't have a playing career, period. But, what he's done with Bristol City is not going to go unnoticed by bigger clubs than what we are. And, if this is our year, then, really, really happy days. You got to be pleased for him and the fans. I mean, I'm 69. I remember 49 years ago when we went up and, we stayed up for 4 years. I'd love to do that again. But, Manning's winning people round. And it's not champagne football, but we've seen glimpses of front, fast foot attacking football, but not enough. And I wouldn't say it's budget Pep Guardiola football either, because when they do turn on a bit of flair, it's okay. It is okay. We were unlucky, I think. I didn't go to the game, but we got a point up at your place, and that was only because we conceded late on up there, didn't we? Yeah, it was a 1-1 draw.
And I think the interesting thing with that game, looking back, it's funny you mentioned it because first half I thought we had a few chances, did well, didn't put anything away, and you thought, oh, continue second half, you'd be fine. Yeah. And he made a tweak in that game at half time. He completely changed the formation and the setup, and it killed us, to be honest. At the time, we went in a bad form, and I think I spoke about this on the review show that I watched, and I'll mention him again, Russell Martin. You'd think I'm obsessed with him, but I watched a really interesting podcast, and he was on about his next job, and he said something interesting that was like, certain clubs aren't right for him at the moment because certain clubs and the way that they're set up in the fan base will get frustrated when the goalkeeper stands on the ball for 25 seconds to be able to pick the right pass, and that's what he wants, and he won't change from it. I think Manning is possession based, and as you say, I don't think he's quite as fancy as Russell Martin is potentially, but he's definitely got a style of football. Was that kind of part of the problem in winning him round alongside the Nigel Pearson stuff? Was that kind of his issue when he first started in winning the fans round, that Bristol City aren't used to that? They want to get the ball forward as a fan base because every fan base has their own belief of what the football should be like. And also, is that testament to how good the job's been that maybe he started on the back foot?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, this loving with Nigel Pearson, and I really enjoyed Nigel Pearson, but if I say Nigel went November 23, but if you wind the clock back, we played West Brom on a Boxing Day game, which would have been the tail end of 2022, and the crowd were calling for Nigel Pearson's head. I don't think we had a playing identity under Nigel Pearson. I mean, the tactics and what have you. I mean, Nigel, for the last 6 months he was with us, he was dealing with a severe health problem. He was on crutches. So Nigel wasn't out on the training ground. Yeah, we had lots of experienced players. I look back at, who was there when Nigel was there. People like Matty James, Andy Vyman, people like that. And he kept our status there. So when Liam came in, he's dealing with players at a level that he's not managed before. People like Matty James went out through the door summer. Andy King was there as well. Andy Vyman went. He's sort of the only experienced head that's in the dressing room now, really experienced head, is Naki. And after the West Brom game, and Manning was praising him for it, Naki addressed the players, as a group in the dressing room. And I think that shows, the thing is, though, with Naki Wells, He's out of contract in the summer, and everybody's saying, well, he's got to be worth a year. But getting back to your point, Liam Manning came in, was on the back foot for reasons that are they're not really football related reasons. People wanted a stick to beat the board with because we didn't go out and spend the money for Alex Scott and Semenyo in a way. People looked at Coventry and saw them going out and buying some of the players that they did, because they sold Gokares and Hamer, didn't they? That's over that period. That the fans were not happy, and Liam Manning unfairly faced the brunt of that.
Interesting you mentioned about the home form before. The home form's definitely better. You've got the fifth best home form in the league. You've only lost 3 games at home.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting as well when you look at the away form. You don't win many away from home, but you seem to have a knack of getting something from an away game. I think you've drew 9, 10 games or something. You drew a lot. I'll have to double check. But why is it the home form's been so strong? Does things change when you're at home, or is it a case of, I know it sounds daft, you're meant to win your home games, aren't you? But like, I think sometimes you can go on a bad run of form at home, and sometimes you can just hit a good run of form and have a sort of a fortress when you get there. Is it a case of the more the results were building up, the more it's become a fortress?
It's interesting. If you take the last 8 or 9 seasons, we've not got into double figure winning at home. We've only stayed in this. We only challenged 17, 18, 18 and 19 and stayed in the division in the subsequent seasons because of our away form. And at one stage, maybe 2 years ago, we were the best away side in the EFL. It wasn't reflected in our league position. So what's happened at home, it has, do the crowd make the difference? Are the crowd the 12th man? People are expecting to win at home. I can't put my finger on it, Graham, to be perfectly honest with you. It's just, it does make a change. As you say, double figure home wins. I think we've done it once in the last 10 seasons.
I think when you're looking at the way the table is at the minute, 4 games to go, and I'll be honest, as a Sunderland fan, we're kind of counting them down because we're playing like we're solidified 4th, if we're completely not be honest with you. So don't expect any fireworks from us on Friday, but I think for yourselves, as you said, it's tight. You've got first, second, third, and it's going to be one of those 2 that goes up. Then you've got third, we'll play whoever finishes 6th. Then us versus whoever finishes 5th. You're in 5th at the minute. Are Bristol City's fans' expectations that you do get in the playoffs? And maybe it's the wrong word I'm asking, but would it be a failure if you missed out on the top 6 at this point, or would it still be a good season if you didn't?
Good point. 2 things I'll say there. From the board's perspective, they said this season's success will be in or around the playoffs come the business end of the season. So even if they fail now, you could say mission accomplished. Yeah. Gary Hours, who you guys will know up in the northeast, he was speaking on local radio. Yeah, and I've got to know Gary because he comes on the podcast a few times as well. He was saying we really should get to the playoffs, and then it's who do you fancy? Because over 2 legs, because we'll be the lower club, it could be you. I said on our podcast we could be playing you 3 times in the space of 4 weeks. Let's say it is you guys. I can remember in the playoffs, different level. I can remember losing at home. We'd be at home in the first leg, losing at home to Walsall 3-1, and then going up to Walsall for the next leg, thinking, well, that's it. We're going to lose this, and we won 2-0. And that was in the days. This is 1988 when they used to toss the coin for the 3rd venue. Up to Walsall like on the Monday after the Saturday, and we were 3-0 down after 20 minutes, which did not make for a good second half commentary, as you can imagine. If I look at who we'd like to play in the playoffs, any of those teams are going to be tough, right? If you ask who I'd fancy in a one-off game of the playoff teams, it would be Sheffield United, because we went up, they beat us narrowly at our place, yeah? Beat us narrowly at our place, and we went up there the other week, we drew 1-1. That was a good result. If you look at Leeds, we drew 0-0 Leeds, and we've got them on Monday week. Yeah, we could be playing Leeds 3 times, although they got an important win the other day. The team I'd least like to play in a one-off game is Burnley. I don't know if you guys feel the same.
Burnley's an odd one. At risk of getting scolded by Burnley fans here, they haven't scored against us, and we were a penalty away. Just scoring one of the penalties of the two that we had in that game
Hmm.
would have meant we would have won. But there's something about Burnley where you just feel like, look, they could beat you 1-0 over two legs. They could just shut up shop for two games. And I think
Yeah,
I sort of agree. I think if you told me, look, naturally I'm going to be confident going in against whoever we get in fifth or sixth because the league positions, I suppose I
yeah,
should be. You get your home game second as well. But then you're looking at the final at Wembley and say, of the three teams that are at the top, who would you want most in a one-off game at Wembley? I would probably say Sheffield United or Leeds and not Burnley, if I'm completely honest, which
yeah.
is not how I value the sides as they are. I
No,
actually think Burnley's probably the worst of the three, but they're
yeah,
just
yeah.
stodgy, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's just Scott Parker. He's got a
Yeah.
formulaic way of playing. I mean, look at the whatever they call it these days, the cup at the weekend. You know, Birmingham versus
Mm.
Peterborough. Look at what Birmingham have achieved this season, and Peterborough. You know, one of the worst defences in that division. And I didn't watch the whole game, but I watched enough of it. And Birmingham were crap.
Yeah.
They really they weren't there. But whatever happens, we are going to be at home in the first leg. So whoever we have to play, we have to take, in my opinion, a 2-0 lead because I wouldn't want to be playing you guys on a Sun. I don't know when the second leg
I
is.
think it's a Tuesday, I think.
Is
Tuesday
it at the
the
Stadium of Light? I would not
13th.
want to be. I would not want to be playing you guys defending a one goal lead or 1-1. But then you said your team. I mean, I was looking at our team against your team the last time we played at Ashton Gate. You know, I mean, there's probably going to be about 8 of those, our team, that are still playing. Are your fans a little bit edgy at the moment and just a little bit disgruntled, even though you are where you are?
I feel like they are, if I'm honest with you. I'm not. I'm quite calm. I'm quite happy with like having four games where, I've been at the end of a season before where the last four games don't matter because we've been relegated. So I'm sort of like in a happy position. But like it would be a lie for me to come on and say that we're playing well at the moment. We haven't played well for a while, and we certainly have dropped off. But my thought process is that we get Enzo Lefebvre back and he's perfect for Reggie Slibbery's team because he's played with him since he was like 15, 16. And I think things will change. But would I like us to be going in a bit of better form? Probably. But that's another question I would have for you as well. I was looking at stats the other day and I've talked about it for ages and then I've changed my mind on it. Talked about momentum going into the playoffs. And then I looked at the teams that have gone up and the kind of momentum that they've had going into it. Teams who generally are quite out of form tend to win the playoffs, like or not
Do
in the
they?
best form, which is weird.
Yeah.
Southampton lost three of the last four. You kind of have to go in with a bit of momentum because you have to secure it. But I mean, do you care about being the most informed team going into the playoffs as long as you're in there?
I don't know. I mean, again, I'll wind the clock back to 2008, and that was our first season back. So we almost did an Ipswich, and I can remember we
Mm.
played Hull City. We played Hull City at home at the beginning of March, and we beat them 2-1. Our crucial game that we lost was the away game against Stoke, and if we'd have beaten them, maybe got a draw. But when we played Hull in the final, they were the form team. Their run from March under Phil Brown, their run from March up to the playoffs was tip top. And our cup final, strange as it may seem, I mean, we played Palace away, then home, and we won that. And the night we won Palace 3-1 to put us into the final, I think 4-2 on aggregate, or I don't know what it was now, but that was that game, and the final for us was a little bit of an anticlimax. You know, we had a key player, Jamie McCoon, missed a game with a stomach upset. Bradley Orr fractured his cheekbone after 20 minutes, and then Hull they'd made a rather astute signing of Fraser Campbell in that January transfer window, and we hadn't. You know, we'd gone out and got Dele Adebola and Nick Carl. And with Adebola coming in, we changed our style of play, I'd say, for the back third of the season. Still got to the playoffs, but the momentum had been built between August and December. Yeah. So even back then, we were going into the playoffs not on the best of form. But, you know, it's 3 cup finals coming up, whoever you get, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's weird because like we've never really won the playoffs apart from 1990 when we got beat off Swindon, financial irregularities, and X, Y, and Z. But the time we did win the playoffs in League One, we went in a really good momentum, and I've always said momentum, momentum, momentum. And then I looked at it this sort of past week, and momentum doesn't seem to have too much of a difference. But it would be the one season where it does. When I've said that now on a recorded podcast, because of course that would be my sort of luck, mate, wouldn't it? But look, unless we lose all four games, and I think you win all four, Sunderland are guaranteed fourth place, which
Of
is
course.
a great achievement. But as I
Yeah.
said on this, we're not flying towards the end of the season in brilliant form, which is
No.
probably where the last questions come from. But this is where I find this question even probably more interesting than I have done for months, seasons since I've done this podcast. From the outside looking in, what have you made of Sunderland season?
What I made of Sunderland? Well, I think the last time I came, one time I came on your podcast was the season where we played you in the opening fixture. And I know a few Sunderland fans, and you came up, and I think Ellis Sims was playing for
Simsy?
you guys then, and
Yeah.
he scored 2 goals, and you beat
Yep.
us 3-2
Yep.
at Ashton Gate. And I said then, I see Sunderland as a top six side in the Championship. So you didn't go up then, you didn't go up last season. You're a big football club, but then you're a big football club in the same way that Bristol City, people say, well, Bristol City should be a Premier League team. You get where you're going to be based on how good you are, and your crowds are what 35 to 40,000. That's going to generate that is worth a 12th man every week. I would say when the team is doing well. So I would see you as a top eight championship side, even when you're having a bad season. And I mean, West Brom are a bit of a yo-yo club, as are Norwich and maybe even Middlesbrough. But what? Yeah, and Sunderland are, being up and down a little bit over the years. But you're a top. I see it top eight championship side and difficult to beat.
Yeah, no, I think the game when we look back, the 1-1, as I said before, I felt like we had a decent first half, missed a few
Mm.
chances. You came out and scored, and then Patrick scores at the end and gets kind of a late, some would say deserved. I don't know if looking back, I'm not sure if it was, but so maybe this is not the best question to ask, but I've been asking it to every guest I've had. Before we go into predictions and sort of close off, who was the player that stood out for you most in our last game? Who was the one that kind of you recall being the player that worried you on that game?
Uh, that's a good question. I can't think of one, to be honest.
To be honest, I was struggling to remember the game. I was thinking back and I'm thinking who played well that day, and the
I
only
mean, there's a player that I always keep an eye out for in the Sunderland team, and he's not one of their stars, but he's one of their regulars, and it's Luke O'Nine.
Mhm.
And I look at him, and I see there a guy. This is an outsider looking in, a guy who gives 100% all the time, runs around a lot, comes up with the odd occasional goal. So I'm not saying he's going to score the winner against us or the winner in the playoffs, but that's a player that I look out for. But Luke O'Nine would be the name you asked. I think Hume scored for you the other week, didn't he?
Yeah,
But
scored a few
Luke
actually.
O'Nine is a player. He's been with you a long time, and I would say he's not dissimilar to Jason Knight, who we signed from Derby County. Who, if we don't go up through the playoffs, we're going to struggle to hang on to him this summer because he's Mr. Duracell Bunny. I mean, he runs around like a mad thing. But I mean, look, it should be. I'm quite relieved that you say that they're already on the beach in the sense of getting ready for the playoffs, and that's what I said earlier when we were chatting. Like they've not had to play with the intensity. We looked out on our feet against QPR for the first 25 minutes. I mean, if they'd have been 3-0 up after 25, you could have said, yeah, maybe we were that bad. If you're coasting, then great. But I would be fearing you in over 2 legs, particularly with the second leg up at your place. But yeah.
I'm not sure what we'll do on Friday, but there's two games coming up. We've got Blackburn on the Monday, so prediction wise, I haven't done this for ages, and I hate doing it. I hate doing it, but I like to be honest. I think we'll get beat 1-0. We've only beat you once since we've come back up home and away, and that was at 3-2. So I think you beat us 1-0 away twice. So I fancy us to beat us 1-0 again. We're kind of in that 1-0, 0-0 form. So it'll be 0-0 or 1-1. I'm going to say 1-0 Bristol City,
Yeah.
sadly.
Yeah. I'd like it to be, I'd take 1-0 now if you offered it to me. If we only drew with you, we've our Easter Monday game is Luton away. That's not going to be easy on that little pitch.
Mm.
Yeah. I think if we do beat you, so I'm going to mirror your prediction, if I may. If we do beat you 1-0, I think that's one massive step because if you look at the fixtures that the other clubs have got at the end of the season, there's a massive fixture on the last day is Coventry versus Middlesbrough. Yeah.
Oh.
That is a massive fixture on the last day of the season. Yeah. And we've got Preston. If we come away from Leeds with anything, that'll be a bonus. And what we don't want to do is get hammered by, say, Leeds away. And then you start looking at goal difference. And the team, because goal difference now is worth a point. So the teams that have got better goal difference in that group are Middlesbrough and what's the other one? And West Brom. So they got slightly better goal difference than us. Millwall, they've come on late, under Alex Neil. You wouldn't want to play them at the new Den or away. I don't think they're going to get there. If we beat you, we're going to be there, I would think.
Yeah, because I think your hardest game outside of maybe, well, a harder game than ourselves would be Leeds. But I think if you get something from ourselves, you can beat the rest of the teams. That's how we're looking at it, at least, isn't it? So, and Coventry Borough's that's a massive game. I didn't realise that. I don't know, can both teams lose? Because I might, I'd be quite happy for them both to lose.
It wouldn't be too bad. It
No.
wouldn't be too bad. But yeah, I mean, you keep your eyes on the other results now. You have to, and you can do the predictions now. It's not complicated. I did a prediction when each side had 12 games to go. I was sat there for an hour, and I think I had us finishing 7th on 72 points. But then since doing that, our form has picked up, and no team seems to want to win. The one team that's blown up this season is the one team that's blown up badly is Blackburn, because they were right there or thereabouts.
John Eustace walking out to seem to have scuppered them. But look, Dave, I hope in a kind of way that we get to do another one.
I hope so. Yeah.
But if not, I hope that we don't ever have to because it means we've been promoted. So,
But
nice
that's fantastic, Graham. No, well, look, good luck, except on Friday.
Of course.
I'd look forward to doing another one with you in the playoffs, or maybe another two. Because
another two.
We could do a preview and a debrief. How about that?
We can, mate. Fantastic. Good to speak to you.
You too.